going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about a six-figure Bitcoin. Now, with the Bitcoin ETF approval seemingly imminent, the question remains, what will happen and how high can we go if this is the bullish catalyst that everybody is looking for? Now, as we creep closer and closer to a potential approval, we're starting to see some super bullish press with multinational banks calling for some crazy prices on Bitcoin, with Standard Chartered calling for a $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2024 and a potential $200,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2025. Now, are these predictions even possible or likely, or is this just the market maker setting up retail to be that exit liquidity before a giant dump? In today's video, we're going to be covering some of these bullish stories. We're going to take a look at some of this moon map that the banks are doing, and then we're going to hit the charts. I'm going to show you guys why you should be somewhat careful as we approach some key levels of resistance and as we inch closer to the previous all-time high. But after that, we are going to take a look at the bullish case, looking upwards above that 2021 all-time high, and we're going to talk about the likelihood of breaking that all-time high in 2024 and seeing that $100,000 Bitcoin that they're calling for. And I'm going to give you guys my top 3 most bullish predictions if we are to break that 2021 all-time high. There are some specific targets I'm looking at, so we're going to cover all those in case Bitcoin decides to throw its spacesuit on, jump in a rocket ship, and head towards that six-figure level. I don't want to waste too much time here, guys. We got a lot of interesting stuff to take a look at, so without further ado, let's go ahead and find out if this $100,000 Bitcoin's possible. Let's get into it. So, as you guys can see here, VanEck CEO, if you guys don't know who VanEck is, they are one of the Bitcoin ETF applicants. They filed their application back in August of 2023, and now their CEO is saying that they are expecting their spot Bitcoin ETF to potentially start trading as early as Thursday. And as you can see here, VanEck CEO said his firm's spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund, or ETF, should begin trading on Thursday, echoing other firms that expect the Securities and Exchange Commission to greenlight those products in the coming day. And then we have a quote here from the CNBC host asking, "You believe it's going to start trading Thursday?" Where the VanEck CEO simply just responded, "Yeah." Continuing on, asset managers have been vying for a spot Bitcoin ETF for months, and updated forms have been rapidly filed as they get closer to potentially obtaining approval from the SEC for what would be the first spot Bitcoin ETF in the US. And Valkyrie Investments is also anticipating a decision soon, telling the block that they expect the SEC will deem ETFs effective at the end of the business day on Wednesday, with trading to begin on Thursday morning. So we are seeing some of these bullish stories starting to pop up, which is very good to see the sentiment really just continue in that bullish direction, but also has some red alerts flashing in my head. As you know, sometimes when all this bullish media comes out, we could be nearing a local top. Now, we also have a headline here saying Standard Chartered. Now, if you guys don't know who Standard Chartered is, they are a giant multinational bank, not only offering services to individuals like me and you for personal banking, but they also offer institutional and corporate banking services, offering things such as financial markets access, as well as advisory services. Now, you guys know I'm a big fan of moon math on this channel, as long as we're being realistic, but you can see that Standard Chartered is doing some moon math of their own, calling for a $200,000 Bitcoin by late 2025 if the ETFs are approved. The article goes on to say multinational bank Standard Chartered predicts that Bitcoin could reach nearly $200,000 by the end of the year if the Bitcoin ETFs are approved and are successful in the United States. The bank based the price prediction on the assumption of between 437 million and 1.32 million Bitcoin that will be held in the United States listed spot Bitcoin ETFs by the end of 2024. The firm estimates this to equate between about $50 to $100 billion in inflow. Definitely bullish if you ask me. They also featured an X post here from Lark Davis. Shout out to Lark Davis. Just saying Standard Chartered posting some moon math of their own, $200,000 incoming. And then the article goes on to say Kendrick and Cooper's $200,000 prediction means that Bitcoin must increase 4.3x from its current price at $47,000. However, Standard Chartered executives noted the value of gold exchange traded products multiplied by this 4.3 figure around 7 to 8 years after gold ETPs were launched in November of 2004. Now, we would expect Bitcoin probably to move a little bit quicker than that, and they would actually agree, saying we expect Bitcoin to enjoy price gains of similar magnitude as a result of the US spot ETF approval, but we see these gains materializing over a shorter 1 to 2 year period, basically seeing that $200,000 price prediction by the end of the next bull run. The banking executives also noted its latest Bitcoin price prediction is in line with its more recent Bitcoin price prediction of $100,000 by 2024. Now, these are the price predictions we're going to dive into right now. Is it possible to break our previous all-time highs and get to that $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2024? Well, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts and figure out how realistic this prediction is. So here we are on the Bitcoin chart, guys, and if you watch my channel, these levels will look very, very familiar to you, as this is basically how we were able to predict this extremely bullish move up to about 48 to 50K over the past year. Now, I'm not going to get into why these volume profiles are so effective or how to use them in this video, because we're just looking at key levels and talking about these predictions, but I made a video about 8 months ago when we were hitting our head on the bottom of this key level of resistance, expecting that if we were able to flip this level to support, we would simply fill the rest of the volume profile coming up to our macro golden pocket at 48 to 50K. Now, there was a little more that went into this analysis, because we did see the same thing happen here in 2019 when we put our bottom in the bear market of 2018, and then we got a bear market rally up to our macro golden pocket before getting a little bit of a retracement down to a macro 786 before the next halving and the next parabolic 2021 bull run. And that video, if you guys are interested in checking that out, because we do talk about what we expect the rest of the bear market to look like, I'll link it in a card above and in the description down below. But we are essentially at those price targets that we were looking at. And now the question remains, what happens if we break these levels? Now, first off, I want to talk about the bearish case, guys, because anytime you see things go mega bullish and you see these crazy bullish articles popping up, sometimes it could be a little bit of a red flag, because as you guys know, oftentimes when we have big events like this, it could create a sell the news event where everybody hops in anticipation of these Bitcoin ETF approvals, and then it winds up dumping on the news, because a lot of the people who were buying at the bottom of the bear market, shout out to the CandleMafia, if you watch the channel, you will have been buying all down here. However, people who have been buying down here are now sitting in beautiful profits of almost 200%, so we do have to be careful of a potential pullback. Now, another problem I do see with a break of the all-time high from 2021 at about $69,000 is that historically, Bitcoin doesn't typically break its all-time high before the halving takes place. And as you guys know, the halving is set to take place around April of this year. Although we are in a little bit of a specific situation here with these long-awaited bullish catalysts being the spot Bitcoin ETFs, remember, we typically don't see Bitcoin break its all-time high before the halving occurs. And if we are just going to see history rhyme or repeat itself, we could potentially expect a big cool-off, because traditionally, we do enter a little bit of an accumulation zone after a big bear market rally. And in 2019, we got a big cool-off and then a black swan clearing out all these longs, filling that entire move to the downside before finally launching up into the next bull market. So if we are going to see history rhyme or repeat itself, and we're not going to break the all-time high or the golden pocket, etc., what we could potentially expect is a little bit of a cool-off into some other key levels of support, where I would be looking simply at the golden pocket and 786 retracement of the entire move up. So even if we pull up to that 786, I would be pulling my fib from the low to the high and then taking a look at that golden pocket and 786 retracement for a potential revisit. And then once we started breaking that 786, I would start to get a little bit more bearish on Bitcoin, starting to wonder what's going on and if we should start looking lower. I always do say, if the 4-year cycle is going to break, I feel like a spot Bitcoin ETF may be the thing to do that. But as you know, every time people start to think this time is different, they typically wind up getting wrecked almost every single time. So as we inch closer to these approvals, guys, we are also inching very, very close to some key levels of resistance. And the first major level of resistance is this golden pocket sitting between about $48,000 and $50,000, where we also have the value area high of our range. And as you guys know, once you flip that value area low and get above the POC, chances are you're on your way to the value area high. So I wouldn't be surprised to see price push into these levels, but if we do, I am going to be very cautious for a potential pullback, because this is monumental resistance, and if history does wind up repeating or rhyming, we have rejected these macro golden pockets in the past, so we could potentially see the same thing happen. Now, if we break that golden pocket, we do have another key level of resistance we need to be watching out for, and it is sitting right here at the 786 Fibonacci retracement level, the macro 786 when pulled from the all-time high to the all-time low, sitting at about $57,624. So if we do wind up breaking over this level, guys, we could wind up seeing a push to that 786, where I will continue to be very, very cautious for a pullback, because typically this is where lower highs come in before getting a retracement to the downside. Even if we are going to come back up and break the all-time highs, it is going to be important to look for a rejection at these levels, whether we get them or not. And once we get over that golden pocket, we will also be outside of our value area, which is simply between the value area high and the value area low of this range. And when we see this, oftentimes this is what we would consider an overvalued asset, and this is where we typically want to be looking for shorts to potentially get accepted back into the range for that retracement that you would expect off of these Fibonacci retracement levels. So this is kind of the bearish case in my opinion. Granted, we will come up a little bit, so it is kind of like a bullish and then a bearish case, but this is kind of what I would expect if we are going to get some excitement entering into the markets based off the ETF approvals. But especially at the 786, you want to be very, very careful in case we do get a sell the news event. We get that little pop up before hitting the golden pocket 786 and then getting the retracement to the downside, where we have some key levels of support below sitting around 34.4K, as well as some other local support we have within here. But this is not a local video. This is a macro video. And then you would just simply expect all these levels within the range to get respected for your key levels of support, remembering that your POC is indeed your next macro level to the downside. So I know that's the bearish case, and nobody wants to hear the bearish case, especially when there's news calling for a $100,000 to $200,000 Bitcoin. So now let's go ahead and cover the bullish case. So let's say that we do wind up getting the ETF approvals and things go absolutely ballistic. Well, the next targets to the upside would still be the golden pocket and the 786, but let's assume that Bitcoin is strapping on its spacesuit, hopping in the rocket ship, and just going absolutely crazy, and we break that 786 to the upside and we flip it to support. The next major level of resistance is simply going to be the 2021 all-time high, which is sitting at $69,000 even. Now, this is obviously going to be a major level of resistance to look at and a key level to flip to support. So if we wind up getting a big break, we get over that 786. Simply put, the next key level is going to be that $69,000 all-time high, where we could potentially look for some resistance. Now, this is kind of where the 4-year cycle starts to disagree with these bullish predictions, because like I said, if you come back to 2019, you can see we came up to that golden pocket, and then we did not crack that all-time high at about $20,000 until December of 2020, which was already after the halving had taken place and we had gotten that Bitcoin supply shock. So it does kind of break the 4-year cycle in my opinion. Like if we do wind up breaking this all-time high, it completely shatters the 4-year cycle. But like I said, as Bitcoin matures as a financial asset, this cycle will eventually break, and it's very hard to tell what will actually break the cycle. But in my opinion, if it is going to change or break, the spot Bitcoin ETF may be the thing that actually winds up doing that. Now, I'm not calling for that, but looking back, if this 4-year cycle breaks, that Bitcoin ETF, I mean, this is a bullish catalyst that people have talked about in the previous bull run. It's always rumored, oh my God, spot Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin's going to be the new gold. And simply put, we're just closer to that happening than ever before. Now, the fun really starts once we break this all-time high, because once you crack that $69,000 price level, there is simply nothing but air above, and Bitcoin will be entering that beautiful, beautiful zone of price discovery. Now, that does add a little bit of difficulty to the TA because there is no way to look left and find previous resistance. So I'm using a mixture of Fibonacci levels as well as spider lines to figure out where the next likely targets to the upside for Bitcoin would be after we break the all-time high and can't look left anymore. So if we wind up seeing Bitcoin break out of the golden pocket above the 786 and absolutely destroy its all-time high, and we get a gigantic move to the upside, guys, the next key level I'd be looking at is sitting right here at about $81,437. Now, again, these levels are a mixture of Fibonacci levels as well as spider lines, and as you can see, depending on how long it takes us to move up here, we could be looking at that next key target once we break that all-time high to be sitting right here at that $81,500 level. Now, if we wind up cracking that $80,000 level to hit that $100,000 prediction by the end of 2024, like like Standard Chartered is looking for, this prediction actually does wind up lining up with the technicals, in my opinion, because once we crack that $81,000 level and hop on top of the spider line, the next major spider line that we are seeing is sitting right here, and the fib level also comes in at about $101,997, almost 102 grand. And again, depending on how quickly we would be able to get up there, this would be in beautiful confluence with this major spider line sitting at about $108,000. So even if we come up to this fib level and start wicking above, you have that backup resistance sitting right there at about $107,000 to $109,000. Now the resistance and confluence with these spider lines and fib levels, again, is going to be very, very reliant on how quickly and when we come up to these levels. But as you can see, target number one right here at 81.5 has beautiful confluence. And then right up here, we do have some nice confluence with the spider lines and the next fib level. Now, it is very, very hard to predict if this is going to happen. That's why I'm giving you guys the if this then that scenario, the bullish case and the bearish case. That way, if we do get the move up, that's the if this. If we move up, we can take a look at these targets and expect resistance around these key levels. But to be quite honest, $80,000 and $100,000 do have some pretty nice confluence, in my opinion, again, based very heavily on time. Now, let's talk about that $200,000 prediction by the end of 2025. Now, my last two technical targets are actually pretty close to that $200,000 mark. We have target number 3 sitting here at about $155,000. This spider line runs through that $150 level towards the end of 2025. So this may be a place that if we reach, you may want to be careful, because not only do you have the fib level, but you also have the spider line. Maybe if we are able to get a blow off top, which we did not get in 2021, we got a double top. But if we were to see something like this, where we got an absolute blow off top like we saw in 2017, which is definitely possible, I don't see it being super unrealistic to hit that fourth target up here, which is right in between these two red spider lines, between about $200,000 and $250,000. So to be quite honest with you guys, there are some technicals that line up with these price predictions. Just simply, even if we're ignoring the spider lines, guys, just simply looking at the next fib levels, we have $81,000, $102,000, $150,000, and about $210,000 as the next targets. And then when you fire up the spider lines, you can see that there is some nice confluence at these levels, and in my opinion, could be good targets to look at as we move into the next bull run and as we wait for the spot Bitcoin ETFs to get approved. Now, this move would give you about a 362% gain on your investment if you were to buy Bitcoin at today's price, which is about $47,000. Which brings me to my last point. When looking at these bullish price predictions, guys, you want to realize that these are all very speculative. There is nothing guaranteeing that we hit these levels. There is nothing guaranteeing, even though it may be likely, there is nothing guaranteeing that if these spot Bitcoin ETFs get approved, that we're absolutely just going to shoot up to 100K by the end of the year. And we do have to be careful as we near monumental resistance, being the macro golden pocket N786 between 48 and 58K, because more often than not, when we see the super bearish news starting to go mainstream, we are near a bottom. And when we see the super bullish news hitting the mainstream for Bitcoin, we are oftentimes approaching key resistance, and oftentimes it could mark a local top. So be careful out there, Mafia. Like I said, I am mega bullish on Bitcoin, especially going into the next bull run. I do think these price targets are potentially possible, but again, I want to remind you that this is all speculative, but now you have the key levels to take a look at, and as we approach those key levels, you can assess the price action and decide if you are seeing bullish or bearish signals to either take some profit or maybe just hold on for the next target to get hit. So shout out to the Candle Mafia and shout out to everybody holding Bitcoin. Congrats on your massive gains if you were buying at the bottom of the bear market, and if you're still holding on, fingers crossed for the spot ETF approvals, and hopefully we can see continued bullish price action continuing on in 2024. That's all I got for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Frankie Candles out.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me.